Welcome to Beyond the Nudge, the podcast for women over 50 who are ready to grow joyfully, take action with ease, and fully step into their age of empowerment. I'm your host, Kia Eileen, and this is your invitation to go beyond the whispers of intuition, dive deeply into your potential, and create the life and impact you've always dreamed of. Expect monthly themes, transformative insights, powerful frameworks, and practical tools to help you reconnect with your purpose, overcome challenges, and align with your most radiant self. And because wisdom grows in community, I will occasionally be drawn by incredible special guests, women with inspiring stories, expert insights, and life-changing strategies to share with you. So here's what's in store: practical wisdom, actionable tools and frameworks from spirituality, psychology, and metaphysics to help you grow, inspiring stories from me and from others who've transformed their lives and embraced their fullest selves, and embodied action to help you move from dreaming to doing with clarity and confidence. This is more than just a podcast. It's a space for transformation, empowerment, and connection. If you're ready to move beyond the nudge of intuition and into your fullest expression, you're in the right place. So let's get started. Your best you is waiting beyond the nudge. So welcome to episode 3 of Beyond the Nudge. It's a pleasure to have you here. I'm your host, Kia Eileen, as I've said. And as I mentioned before, each month we will have a different theme, and then we'll have sub-themes within that month. So this month is February, and the theme is Love Without Limits. Love without limits. And so, what does that actually mean? Love without limits, unlimited love. So we're going to be exploring that through this month. How can we love unconditionally? How can we love fully without any constriction, without any conditions? So this first episode in the Love Without Limits theme is Love Yourself Whole. Love yourself whole. And so quite often, when I meet clients and they're ready to step out in their purpose, they're ready to step out and they know they're here, they have a vision, they want to do something, they want to experience something, they want to create something, they limit themselves. When they become that fullest embodiment of the love that they know that they are, then there is no fear. They're able to step out into their purpose with full passion and with confidence. And so I want to really explore the concept of loving yourself whole. Sometimes clients will say, well, I know that I have a lot of work to do, or I know that I need to be fixed, or there's something in me that's wrong that needs to be let go of. And I'm here to tell you that you're not broken. There's nothing that needs to be fixed, and there's nothing wrong with you. It's just a matter of switching your perception to love all of you, all of you. And it's about having that sense of the unconditional for yourself. I know you, right? So if you're here and you're someone who wants to create impact in the world, it's because you want to make a difference, right? You want to make a difference in your family's lives. You want to make a difference in the lives of the people in your communities. You want to make a difference in the world. And it's because, we want to stand up and be counted. We want to leave our indelible mark somewhere in the world. We want to leave pieces of our love in the world. And I'm sure that if I spoke to your friends, if I spoke to your family, they would tell me, they would share how much you love them, how selfless you can be, how much of yourself that you give, sometimes overgive to people around you. And so I have a question for you. What would it be like if you were to love yourself with that same level of intensity that you love others? What would it feel like if you were to fiercely love yourself as much as you love everyone else? If you were to turn that deep passion, that deep love, you would go to the ends of the earth for someone else. But what about going to the ends of the earth for yourself, for you? So I'd like to cover 3 topics today. 3 topics under the theme of loving yourself whole. How we can follow this journey of loving ourselves whole. And the first one is the illusion of incompleteness, that somehow we are not complete unless there's a condition placed on that. So somehow we need to be loved or validated by some external force in order to really understand our own value. We have to have that external validation in order to say, I am worthy of. So when I get that partner, when I get that promotion, when I earn more money, when I lose the weight, when I create that thing, I will be whole. I will be worthy of being loved. When I. So it's always waiting for that time, sometime in the future, in order to feel into and accept that wholeness that already exists. So there is a sense of unworthiness, inherent unworthiness, because we are waiting for society to tell us we are whole and lovable. Our experiences that we may have had in our pasts, maybe in our upbringings or in our relationships, have led us to believe that there is something conditional about the love that we are able to give or receive. It can be our conditioning that leads us to feel unworthy, any past wounds that we may have experienced. And all of this is external to the truth, which is that you are already whole. And so I think it's important to understand the difference between self-esteem and self-love. Self-esteem and self-love. So when we look at self-esteem, it's based on achievements and validation, your experience, your abilities, your characteristics, your attributes, and it can help you to feel motivated to accomplish things, and it can help you to feel motivated to put yourself out there. But a lot of times, because it is based on your attributes or what you are contributing to society, there can be an external piece to self-esteem. So when I get validated by someone else, that means my self-esteem can become higher. And if we look at that in comparison to self-love, there are no conditions to unconditional self-love. That self-love exists purely because you are worthy of being loved, all of you. And that's the important piece, all of you. So how often do you find yourself shaving off pieces of yourself or hiding pieces of yourself that you deem to be unpalatable or bad or, unlikable? You don't like those parts of you, so you hide those parts away. Unconditional self-love means that we go into the depths of who we are and we love all of those pieces, even the parts that we might think are a bit unsavory. This is about accepting all parts of ourselves with compassion and with kindness, so that we're not judging and criticizing ourselves. It's accepting all of the emotions that we may be holding. Quite often if we were raised in homes where emotions were not the done thing, you know, um, I or some of my friends, you may have experienced, don't cry or I'll give you something to cry about kind of parenting. And so, different situations can cause you to hold your emotions because it doesn't feel safe to actually allow them to be seen and to be felt. And so we shave off those bits of ourselves. And so when we can accept, face all of those parts of ourselves, allow all of those emotions to just be, give those space, hold space for all of the emotions that exist inside of us, face them head on, look at them in the mirror and say, I love even you. So if you can imagine those parts of you that you were judging, that you're criticizing, if you can imagine that they're standing in front of you like a person, what does that part need, right? What does that part want? What would happen if you turned around and said to that part, I love even you. I love even you. And so it's really important to really understand and come to terms with the fact that you are not broken. You are not broken. You're not broken now, nor have you ever been broken. It's just in the way that you view and perceive your own worthiness. So we have to reframe the perception of who we are. When we require that external validation, it's like holding a cake or a pie. And we think all of our worth, the lovable parts of us, is the cake. And so people can come along and take pieces of that cake. We can give pieces of that cake away. We can take pieces back and fill those holes, but eventually we're giving ourselves our power away. And so we can end up with half of a cake or half of a pie. And we start to feel that emptiness, and we're looking for something to fill that void that exists in those missing pieces. But here's the thing that you've forgotten. Here's the thing that you've forgotten. Your worth is not in the cake. Your worth, your worthiness to be loved, is not in the pie. You have forgotten that you are the baker. You are the person, you are the thing that creates the magic, that creates the love, the space that people want to be in. Your worthiness is not tied up in the thing that you create or the thing that you show. Your worthiness is apparent purely because you are the thing that creates. You are the vessel that creates. So don't think of your worthiness as being tied up in what you create or what you do. Your worthiness is inherent because you are the creator. And I really need for you to really feel into that. So I'd like you to ask yourself, where in your life, where in your relationships, where in your business are you feeling not enough? Where are you feeling not enough? I want you to ask yourself, have I shown up in various situations where I know I have been enough? I want you to give yourself proof. 3 examples of where you have shown up and you've accomplished something and you've said, actually, I knew in that moment that I was enough. Maybe write down 3 things. Give yourself that proof. And I want you to ask yourself the situations where you feel unworthy. Maybe it's in relationship, or maybe it's in a job, or maybe it's in your business. Ask yourself, well, where is that coming from? Does it have a historical root? Maybe in your past relationships, childhood, education system. I want you to ask yourself, well, who was present? What was present in my life at that time? And is this unworthiness that I'm holding, does it belong to me? Or am I holding the bag, the can of unworthiness for someone else? Does it belong to me? I want you to give yourself evidence, 3 things of when you knew you were worthy. And then I want you to cast your mind, your memory back to maybe the first time you felt that sense of unworthiness. What was happening? What was going on? Who was there? And is it yours to hold? And if it's not yours to hold, can you give yourself permission to put it down? Can you give yourself permission to let it go? And I want you to feel into the mantra, I am already whole just as I am. I am already whole just as I am, right? Because you are. So I'm already whole just as I am. We've talked about and covered the illusion of incompleteness. Number 2, I want to talk about love as a conditioned state. Love as a conditioned state. And love that is conditional is love that had to be earned based on perfectionism or people pleasing or sacrificing yourself or your own needs. Quite a lot of that fawning behavior that we see in nervous system regulation, nervous system responses. And so it's when we feel that we can only be loved when we are looking after someone else's needs or trying to meet someone else's standards. And if we don't meet their needs, and if we don't meet their standards, they can retract that love. That love or that acceptance becomes conditional. And so that we can feel that if we are not performing, if we are not doing, that we will be abandoned. And so invariably what happens is we end up abandoning ourselves when we don't meet the needs and standards that actually are within us. We end up abandoning ourselves. And so we can begin to feel that sense of loneliness or that sense of invisibility. Nobody sees me. Nobody hears me. And I must do in order to gain love, acceptance, protection. And, this brings to mind my own experience. And my parents are gorgeous people, lovely people, but their conversation style always sounded like arguing to me, even if they weren't arguing. So I always had this feeling that they were angry. They were angry. So what I decided was that I would be good. I would be the good girl. And that was sort of cemented in my educational experiences. I was the good girl in class. And as I was preparing for this podcast, I remembered I went to a Catholic school. Even though I'm not Catholic, I went to a Catholic school, and one of the nuns turned around and I handed in my homework. And she turned around and she looked at me and she said, "You are so good. You are so good, Kia." And I got this ripple of pleasure inside of me. Someone had finally said the thing that I'd been wanting people to say, right? That I was good. And so it became this thing. I never wanted to step out of line. I never wanted to cause trouble. At home, I felt if I was good, then, maybe mom and dad would be happy and they wouldn't argue, even though they're still together today, many, many, many decades later. And it's just the way they talk to each other. I know that now, but I didn't know that as a child. And so I began this good girl journey. And so I had this sense of, never really being seen. Like, do people actually see me? Are they really hearing me? And it led me to a place where I was like, I don't want to feel like this anymore. So what do I need to do? I need to uncover those bits of me that have been hiding. I need to discover who she is. And I need to give space to the parts of me that don't necessarily want to be good. that want to do all kinds of different things, that want to explore, that want to follow their own path. It wasn't about being good or bad, it was just about self-determination. And when I began to determine what I wanted, what the self in me wanted, I began to come home to myself, giving myself room to explore, to go against the supposed grain, and to follow my own path. And so that began a journey of radical self-acceptance, really loving, deeply loving all of those parts of me, all of those parts of me, with kindness and compassion, because I understood that it wasn't for anyone else to determine my value. I had to start determining my value. And it's what I help my clients to also see and understand. So the questions that I asked myself were, what did I love about myself? What did I like about myself? What did I dislike about myself? Where did I judge and criticize myself? Maybe even where were the parts that I really hated, that I really didn't want to see? I didn't want others to see either. Because as I was hiding all of those parts, it was creating a deep sense of loneliness because I wasn't whole and I wasn't allowing myself to be seen and understood as the whole me. So maybe those are questions that you can ask yourself. What do you love about yourself? What do you like about yourself? Where are you judging yourself or criticizing yourself? And then there's some parts of you that you judge really harshly or maybe even hate. And can you bring all of those out into the fore and love on them? Maybe writing a letter to those spaces to say, hey, I'm sorry for hiding you. Maybe I'm sorry for mistrusting you. Maybe I'm sorry for not liking you very much or giving you space to breathe and be. So can you bring those parts out to really be embraced in the whole of you, not just the perfect parts, but the imperfect parts. And the imperfection that we are is really what creates the humanity that we can see within each other, the vulnerability that we can see within each other when you are accepting of those spaces within you that are maybe, not what you want other people to see, then you give others room to be their whole and full selves as well. So the mantra I'd like to leave with you is, I accept all parts of me and love them simply as me. I accept all parts of me and love them simply as me. And so we've had the illusion of incompleteness and love as a conditional state. And so number 3, we're going to look at embodying unconditional self-love. Embodying unconditional self-love. So this isn't self-love as a theory or as an abstract concept. This is embodying self-love as an act, as action. Bell Hooks says, love is an act of will, both an intention and an action. So it's moving from the heady definition of love, what we think of love, and really deciding and creating a conscious choice in each moment of every day to love ourselves deeply. This is not a passive thing. Hooks says, love, this type of love is not passive. It requires care and attention and nurturing, intention, choice, decision, to hold it dear to ourselves, hold ourselves dear. And when we embrace this type of love for ourselves, this unconditional love, we can begin to embody our power, our true power, because we know who we are and we know what we are worth. How we treat ourselves and how we see ourselves really does determine how we show up in the world. It determines how we lead in the world. It determines how we love others. How we love ourselves is the foundation for everything. That outward facing aspect of us. It's juice, it's electricity, it's gas, is based on the love that we feel for ourselves. And so I wanted to just talk about one of the practices, because they're talking about the embodiment of self-love as a practice, as a daily practice. What are one of the practices that we can use to really deepen our sense of love for ourselves? And it's a favorite topic of mine: boundaries. Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. And so boundaries are the limits that we place, we set up to protect ourselves, to protect our mental, our physical, our emotional, our spiritual well-being, protecting our time, protecting our energy, all requires healthy boundaries. And so when we have healthy boundaries, it means that we respect ourselves. We can prevent ourselves from becoming overly angry or frustrated or resentful. We can protect ourselves from burnout and overwhelm when we set very clear, love-filled boundaries. And I love to call these boundaries love-filled boundaries, because they don't have to be harsh or detrimental to any relationships. They just have to be love-filled, and they will be received in that same spirit. And so boundaries require us sometimes to say no to things or yes to things as it suits us. And so sometimes saying no to others, putting up boundaries can throw up all kinds of difficulties for people. Sometimes I ask clients, what does it feel like? What does it mean to you to create those boundaries? And you can have a number of different excuses as to why people might not set boundaries. Well, they could fear rejection. So maybe you fear rejection. Maybe you fear abandonment. And so you allow people to create the boundaries for you in order to gain their love, their acceptance, their value of you. Means that they set the boundaries, you don't. Sometimes if we get stuck in people pleasing, it means that we may struggle to set boundaries. And these are all trauma responses. Not being able to having your value established by someone else, or not being able to look after your own needs because you are looking after someone else's needs, are all trauma responses. Some parts of you may think that it's selfish. It's selfish to set a very healthy and love-filled boundary, where it couldn't be, couldn't be more wrong, right? It's the opposite. It is establishing your own worth and your own value, and establishing a boundary for a healthy relationship with someone, to have boundaries in place. You may feel that maybe you would disappoint someone. Oh, they're going to be upset. They're going to be disappointed if I say no to that. They're going to be disappointed if I say that that doesn't work for me. And so you allow them that space or the thing that they want, or you say yes when you really want to say no, because you don't want to disappoint people. And a mentor once said to me, what someone else thinks about you is none of your business. What someone else thinks of you is none of your business. It's not your responsibility to navigate how someone else will feel or react as a result of the boundary that you put in place to protect yourself. It's not your business. And here's the thing. Disappointment is temporary, but your peace of mind, your peace of body, your peace, the peace within your soul is permanent. That peace, once you cultivate it consciously, is permanent for you. Their disappointment is temporary. And ultimately, when you begin to set clear boundaries, you're giving people an invitation to actually understand where they can begin to take responsibility for their own happiness, for their own well-being. So you're giving them a gift. It's a gift for not only you, but for someone else to set a healthy and love-filled boundary. So how do we set boundaries? Well, number one, we have to identify our limits. So what things make us feel uncomfortable? What things make us feel drained? What things make us feel a little bit sad or angry or frustrated? Okay, so what do you need to do to protect yourself in those situations? That can become a healthy and love-filled boundary. How do you communicate? Can you communicate what you really need and what you really want? Is it clear? Is it direct? And is it filled with love? And I often say that, how we communicate, the intention behind our communication will always be felt, even if the words are not what the person wants to hear. The intention, the intentionality, the vibration behind your words will always be understood by that part of them that can respond, that part of them that is based in love will respond in kind. So what type of communication do you have? Understanding, as I said before, that you're not responsible for how they will react to you. So being able to set that boundary without guilt. Guilt-free boundary setting is a gift for you and for them. You are not responsible. And when you set that boundary and you decide, I'm not responsible for how this person might react to me, you give them an opportunity to become responsible. And that means that there's growth available for them in that exchange. And you have to be consistent. Boundary setting needs to be consistent. If the boundaries aren't consistent, then you can't really enforce them. So can you hold that boundary consistently, even when it feels uncomfortable? Remembering it's only going to be temporary. This discomfort is temporary. I'm giving them a gift. It's based in love, and they get an opportunity to grow from this for their own well-being as well. And number 5, practice, practice, practice. So keep doing it. Once you set a boundary, is there another space in your life where another boundary may need to be set? As soon as you start to do this, it becomes easier to do. So practice, practice, practice. Where can you protect your energy? Where can you protect your mental well-being, your emotional well-being, your physical well-being? And when you put a boundary around yourself, you begin to understand, I am worthy of this. I am worthy of peace. I am worthy of saying no when it suits me. I'm worthy of saying yes when it suits me. And when people see you standing in this space, they see you as the empowered being that you are becoming. And it's an invitation for them to do the same. So a mantra that I can leave you with is, I set solid boundaries because I deeply love myself and others. I set solid boundaries because I deeply love myself and others. And so if I was to leave you with anything today, it would be number 1, you are already whole. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing broken. There's nothing that needs to be fixed. You are already whole. Number 2, radical self-acceptance equals unconditional self-love. Radical acceptance equals unconditional self-love. Number 3, be intentional. Be intentional. Loving yourself is an act. It's an action. It's not passive. It's an action. The act of loving yourself. Become intentional with that. Make it a daily practice. Make it a weekly practice. Really bring that aspect of intentionally loving yourself into your life. And the first way that you can do that is to start setting some solid, love-filled boundaries. And so I hope that that is a very good a very good understanding of how to love yourself whole, is to first of all understand that you already are. You already are. And so how can you bring all of those parts of you into the whole and deeply, deeply love all of you? Because I love all of you. I see all of you, and it is magnificent. You are magnificent. So, thank you for joining me for this episode of Beyond the Nudge. I hope you feel inspired, empowered, and ready to take that bold next step into your age of empowerment and your year of significance. Remember, this is just the beginning. We have so much more to explore, and I want to do it together. I want to do it with you. So be sure to tune into the next episode where we'll dive into parent wounds, parental wounds, and understanding how those wounds shape us. It's one you won't want to miss. So before we wrap up, I'd love to share 2 causes close to my heart. I proudly support Women for Women International, an incredible organization empowering women in war-torn countries to rebuild their lives, and Mantle of Hope in northern Uganda, a charity offering hope and support to the victims of sex trafficking and domestic violence. If you're moved to make a difference, I encourage you to learn more about their transformative work and consider joining me in supporting them. Thank you for joining me on this journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and please share this episode with someone who could use a little nudge of their own. Because remember, your best you is waiting beyond the nudge. See you next time.